And I'm actually going to do one better in the interest of time, so you don't have to listen to me, but these people who are really the ones you came to hear, I'm going to have them introduce themselves and tell us about how they got started in automation and their role, their background, so you can learn about that. And I know we're going to do some mic sharing, so Tara, if you, Charles, if you could pass it to Tara. So Tara and I have done this before together. We did this at a Together conference, and I'm going to put a plug out there. Together is a public sector conference. Make sure you're planning for that this next year.
Yay!
Yeah, that's right. And so Tara and I did this at the Together conference where we had a round table as well. So Tara, would you start us off? Tell us about yourself, tell us about your agency, your role, and how you got started with automation. Are you good?
It is
you live?
working,
Yeah, you're live. Excellent.
My name is Tara Williams. I'm the Deputy Chief of Innovation for Oklahoma Human Services. It is a human service agency, so we have child welfare, child support, adult and family services, developmental disabilities. I think that's it. Our sister agencies are like the Department of Health. So within the agency, there are, I think, 12 service agencies, like dealing directly with clients, and then 8 support divisions. And I work in Innovation Services, which is the support division. How we got started in automation was, and I talked about this a little bit yesterday during the keynote, but in 2015, Oklahoma went through a revenue failure. And what that means for us is when the cost of gas goes down, because Oklahoma's income is so heavily dependent on the cost of fuel, when the prices changed, basically we had to give VOBOs for some of our people that were eligible to retire. So we lost a lot of our seasoned people who knew a lot about our processes, and I have process engineers that work for me. And so this was an opportunity for us to go out and meet with the people in the divisions, kind of look at how we did our business, are these opportunities to lean. Someone talked a lot about that earlier. And I went to a conference and saw actual robots doing work for people. And it was in Seattle some years ago. And I heard that there was something like process automation where they could have bots come in and do some of the work for the people. So I started doing research. I got with some of our technology people at a sister agency and said, I want to do this thing. I don't know who does it around here, but I'm interested. And so UiPath was one of the vendors that we met with, and I was really impressed with UiPath because of the citizen development piece. I'd worked with a consulting company before. I didn't want, every time there's a change, we have to pay them to come in and make the change. Every time the feds change the timeline, we got to pay them to come in and change that. I wanted something where they could train our people and we could keep up with the pace of change in our own environment. And UiPath offered that opportunity. And so we chose to go with them as a vendor. And we started off just feeling the need for work, right? But as the Deputy Chief of Innovation, this opportunity has gone well beyond that. It's now a way that we can revitalize our workforce and how we approach our work. And so it has been an amazing journey.
That's great. Thank you, Tara. Majda, why don't you go next?
This works, right?
Yes, you're good.
Hi, I'm Majda Adnan, and I am the IT Division Manager in General Government Systems Division in LA County Internal Services Department. So Internal Services Department is like central IT. It provides IT services to the rest of the county departments. We have around 40 right now. Our RPA journey is it's pretty interesting. It started off from one of our colleagues from Office of CIO reached out to me and was like, Majda, our coroner office needs help. What can ISD do? How you can assist? And to give you a brief background on that, as you know, as COVID hit and LA County was one of the regions that was hit pretty bad, our coroner office had a very high volume of death certificate processing that they had to report to the state on time. They were stretched on resources, working overtime, still had a huge backlog, and was a perfect RPA use case. So But to start with anything in public sector, you probably know there's a whole process around it, right? So you have to get the executive buy-in, the funding for it, the entire nightmare of the procurement process, make sure you have the resources to deliver the service. From a resource perspective, honestly, I did not have a team or trained staff at that point, and the county was already in a hiring freeze because of COVID. But I wasn't worried about that part too much because I had really great developers and managers who were excited to jump onto the RPA, that part wasn't the problem. So I started off with the executive buy-in process. I got rejected the first time I tried, straight up. But we didn't give up, so we tried again from a different approach because I see it not just being one use case for DME. I mean, LA County is huge. It's one of the biggest county from a population perspective. We have like 40 departments, we have 110,000 employees, and we have huge inventory of such use cases that have, all these manual, repetitive, mundane tasks. So thinking about that, we envisioned, okay, let's create a center of excellence, being a central IT department, and provide those services to the other departments that can leverage off of it. With that in mind, we put together a crawl, walk, run kind of a model that, we are not gonna get an entire financial hit. We'll start up with a foundation, doing a proof of concept for DME, and at least give us the funding to start off with the starter package from a UiPath. So I got that approval. We fast forward the procurement process. That's also a whole big story how we did it. But just to let you know, we kind of leverage off of a study that was done by Accenture, and that helped us to do sole source with UiPath. To start with that process. And while I was working through the process of executive approvals and procurement, my team was already ramping up. They acquired the knowledge on the UiPath. From all the free resources we got, we used Udemy. UiPath helped us to do some free workshops with our developers. So, and we started working with DME. So on DME side, although using all their resources with manual process, it took them around an hour to do the process, and I think I didn't tell about the process yet, right?
No.
Okay, I'm sorry. So the death certificate process was, they had an internal system, and then they had to report to a state system. And the internal and the state system did not talk to each other. There was no integration because of some compliance regulatory issues. And there was a manual process of copying 50 fields from an internal system to the external system, and then the accuracy and all that stuff. And it took them around 1 hour to process just one of it. So it took us 3 months for the entire end-to-end process to get UiPath, to start off with the on-prem orchestrator platform, and we created our first bot was in production in 3 months, and it processed the entire process of reporting to the state was done within less than a minute. So it saved them thousands of hours that they were spending. We were able to get rid of their entire backlog, and they was up to date in the state reporting. And that was a huge win for them. DME was really happy to get that started off. And we used that use case and the success of that as a foundation to start with the Center of Excellence and expand the process. We shared that story at different forums in the county. So 18 months in, we have like nine departments onboarded to the Center of Excellence. We are collectively saving around 4,000 labor hours, which equates to around 1.2 million savings for the county. Also very excited to say that we recently won a National Association of County, the NACO Achievement 2022 for the RPA program, and also a recognition by the Quality and Productivity Commission of LA County as a traditional PLAG award winner. So,
I love it. And that's a start, right? I love it. That's great. Charles, you want to go next?
Sure. My name is Charles Carter. I'm the Assistant Secretary for Technology for the Department of Health and Human Services of North Carolina in the United States of America. Yeah, it's a ridiculous title, but it's a long group there. But anyways, we have 33 divisions within the Department of Health and Human Services. And that ranges from public health to mental health to Medicaid, rural health. It's quite a portfolio. And we started our RPA journey during COVID. COVID was it's a rare time in government where you get an excessive amount of money, you're told to move quickly, and don't worry about procurement regulations, just move. And so with that, we recognized that we had some serious holes, in particular on how labs were reporting to the state. We also had death record, unfortunately. We had an influx of those as well that we had to factor in. And we had a lot of laborious manual processes that were spread throughout our relationships with public health and our external stakeholders. Actually, we worked very closely with Anrakis and EY, who really advocated for RPAs as a beginner start for automation for us. And it was just wildly successful. One of the most extreme examples was a woman named Glenda who was literally having to upload vaccine reporting to the CDC. And it was a very laborious process, but essentially she'd get about 70% through and CDC would halt and kick her out. And she'd have to start over again. And literally her whole job every day was to sit on that computer and refresh and trying to get that file through. And at one point she'd get it through and then she can go back to her world. We instituted RPA bot and it just totally removed her from that process. We completely automated the full data flow to populate the actual report, and then the RPA took over as far as automating it to the CDC. She sent me a picture of her dog and said, "My dog thanks you because now I can go on walks." And apparently the poor dog was trapped for days or hours trying to get this reporting done. But it's a perfect example of when you have a critical need, you have a desperation by the business to try to solve that need. That UiPath and EY really came to bat for us in North Carolina as we were taking care of our residents during a very, very dangerous time as we remember COVID to be. So that was our beginning of our journey.
That's great. Thank you, Charles. Chris? And Chris and Tara, as you probably remember, were on stage with Rob Enslin, so I'm really happy to have everybody here together. So Chris, why don't you kick this off for yourself?
So my name is Chris Apsey. I'm an Assistant Deputy Commissioner for Strategic Technology Innovation at the Georgia Department of Human Services. I don't know what that means. If anyone does, please let me know. So I've been with the agency for about 3 months, and as of about a month ago, I'm also the interim CISO for the agency, so I can kind of like sign my own checks, which is pretty cool. Big fan of that. So our automation journey began with SNAP, right? So DHS runs eligibility determinations for federally funded assistance programs such as SNAP food stamps. And so previously, when we get an application for request for assistance, we have to verify the information that we get from the applicant is true. Like you really only make, X dollars per year, your family's, you got 6 kids, whatever the case may be. And so there's 47 different databases or portals that we have to check by hand to confirm like whether or not the information we got is true and accurate, right? And so that took a long time. And so we have an amazing team of caseworkers, about 3,000 strong, who do great work every day, but like their time is very limited, right? And we want them to spend most of their time talking to the customer, making them feel like they're heard and they're important and that we're gonna help them out and all that kind of stuff, right? What doesn't help do that is logging into web portals and like checking like income verifications, right? And so we used RPA at the beginning to automate all that, right? And so what happens is the application comes in, the bot goes, checks the portals based on the social security number, date of birth, all the kind of identifying info that we have, and then it says, hey, caseworker, we're pretty sure that what they said is true, you should go ahead and approve this. Now the bots, to be clear, don't do the actual approvals, that's illegal as of right now, so it gets to the point where caseworker says, yep, you're approved for benefits, or no, you're not, but the human has to be the one that presses the button as of right now. So that's kind of our first foray kind of into automation.
That's great. Hey, you hear some themes there, right? So, how they got started, Oklahoma, you had a macroeconomic event, right? With oil prices going down, they're getting pressure. Obviously, COVID was a huge macro event. SNAP, similar, is also associated to the same thing, right? And now we have, as you heard Mike Daniels say earlier today, the recession, I hate using the word recession, but, the recession is coming on the way, and I think we're going to see more of that as we go forth. So we heard earlier, Ajay was talking about, the cultural, how he went culturally and what he had to deal with in his environment in California DMV, right? We're talking about Terminator and T2 and how the robots are taking over. How was it from a cultural perspective? Tara, do you take that one?
I think culturally, people didn't know what they didn't know. They weren't afraid because they didn't have any information. But I was so adamant that I wanted to do this thing, and it's going to help us do all this stuff. And as state employees, you may get a raise every 5 to 10 years. So I'm like, if we do something like this, look at the return on investment, maybe we can reinvest in you as people, and that got them energized, right?
That's the way to get buy-in.
Then all of a sudden,
You could all get rich.
I need a bot for this. I need a bot for that. My team needs a bot for whatever. And so we move from, I don't know what a bot is. I'm kind of threatened about my job. And so my conversation with leadership is, if you're threatened about a bot, we can talk about that, because the bot can't do everything, right? It can't make decisions about whether or not to take a child out of a home. So we'll need humans. But if you're afraid about technology, then we have to have a different conversation, because technology is going to happen. You have to make your peace with it and decide, how comfortable you're going to be. But just because we have a bot in production doesn't mean you're not going to have a job. We just have to figure out how you're going to work with the bot. And so for our employees that don't want to do anything differently than what they've done for the last 20 or 30 years, then you are the people that can, because I didn't even talk about like our bot projects. The major projects that we have running have to do with background checks. So a bot will run all of the first pass of the background checks. If you want to be a foster parent, if you want to open a child care, if, any of that, you have to have a background check. So the bot runs all the checks. If there's a hit, first, middle, last name, it goes to a human. A human does more research. They go through the history. It can run through the various systems to make sure that if we're looking at a John F. Smith, it's the John F. Smith associated with this home and this instance. So the bot can do all of that, and then this person that's been doing these checks for the last 20 and 30 years can be the verifier. So you can work with the bot. But if you don't want technology, then you might want to find somewhere else to work, because this is just how things are going, and we need you to just embrace it. And so the culture, like I talked about being the chief of innovation, one of my goals and my chief and our whole division is to spread innovation throughout the agency. And so what RPA has done for us is give our staff time back, where now they can sit down with clients, and Chris talked about that, to get ahead of the situation. So, you have been on public assistance for all your life, your mom has, your grandmother has, that's all you know. Let's talk about a different life and how to get you equipped to be independent and self-sustaining. Let's start, being a child. Let's talk about what you get in school. Let's integrate with, the State Department of Education. Let's have a program for how we move people in the needle from poverty and lack and not having enough and not knowing one life to something different and setting them up for success. And that's a plan, right? And so as a state, we kind of come together and we pull our resources and work across lines, because for the most part, we serve the same people and try to position our citizens for success long term. And so when I talk about what RPA has done for our agency, me as the Deputy Chief of Innovation, it really has been extremely helpful in giving our people time back so they can look at their processes in their work. And when my team goes in and say, well, why do you do things this way? Well, let's talk about that. Is that, if you did that 20 years ago, we don't even have COBOL programs that can fix any of that anymore. So let's look at upgrading and changing our processes and our tech and our mindset, right? And let's build empathy in how we serve our clients. Let's look at human-centered design. Let's revitalize how we do our work. And we have the opportunity to do that now, which is really exciting.
I love it. Human-centered design, too. It's great. I would just want to say, yeah, it's great. I just want to emphasize something here. So Tara, Charles, and Chris, state agencies, all starts with a D, has an H in it, and an S, right? And Majida is with a county, but she's central IT. So, you know, as they answer the questions, I want you to kind of note maybe the difference, how they, because, you know, central IT, I don't know, is sometimes viewed differently in different states and in different agencies, right? And so I want to emphasize that as you answer the same question, Majida.
Absolutely. So as Central IT, it's not about the culture for our own organization, but we are catering to the other departments and how they perceive that as well. So, you know, just like any change, especially when it's a cultural change in any organization, it causes disruption. And, you know, it becomes a change management problem too. But what we have learned, it's all about how you message it. So, you know, in our past experience, I have seen when we rolled out Lean Six Sigma, even Agile, we literally had to have union conversations because people think that's out of their classification. You know, why are they asking me to do this? I mean, for people in the public sector would know. So it does get a little disturbing to the staff if they do not know what the vision is. So just like Tara mentioned, if your leadership tells and is very transparent and communicate to the staff what the vision is, what the goal is, what are they gonna get out of it, right? So it's like, what's in it for me? Right. So as long as they are on board, they understand, they would hop onto the transformation bandwagon and they would enable the process. Otherwise, they will, you know, cause unnecessary delays and hold on to information. So we have seen that, and you know, as Ajay mentioned before, it's we worked with the customers and departments who, did I say the name right?
Ajay?
Oh,
yeah.
Okay. Sorry. We work with the departments who actually really wanted that transformation and the teams who wanted to do that, rather than focusing on the ones that we really wanted to think from a transformation lens. So we used those user stories and success stories and what we gained out of it to attract the others so that they can see, oh, okay, it's not that what we're thinking about, it's something else.
That's great. Thank you. Charles?
So our cultural change has been, you know, we started before COVID with a general modernization effort, with Medicaid moving to a modular program, to all of our different cloud-based technologies. We were moving from fee-for-service to managed care. So we had a lot of things in motion that introduced concepts like cloud, introduced concepts like platforms as a service, introduced these kinds of ideas. And then when COVID hit, all of those horses just raced out of the barn, and it's just been very, very interesting to watch an entire department kind of adjust to just the theme of modernization. And as one of my team members loves to say, technology people love to impose change on others. Not so much themselves, but on others. And it's a true thing because we see these cool new technologies, these new tools, and we want to get out there and start using them. But sometimes the business community, our SMEs, are not there with us. And so we've taken a lot of time. I mean, COVID forced the hand of public health, for example, to really stop with the faxing, to really stop with the manual entries of data points. To open up a recipient portal, to start doing some of these things that they were just reticent to do. And now that that's happened, you're starting to see that the rest of the business is seeing the value of the transparency, the value of really good quality data checks at source that stop bad data from getting in. That if you can put these kind of automation tools in place, you're really able to really enhance the work that's out there. And as far as, like, you know, workers and how they're interacting with it, most of our experience with the RPA came in with new processes. So we had a lot of, you know, lab works coming in, for example. We use OCRs to kind of read those faxes coming in. But when you're going from 10 a day to 2,000 a day, all of a sudden it's, yes, game over, please automate this if you can do it. So it was, COVID really kind of opened the eyes of a lot of of a lot of our team members. But one of the things that we've done recently is that I've led a executive retreat where we looked at, now that we've got our strategic goals that we've aligned to, we were kind of established for an on-prem application by application support agency. And now we were introducing cloud, being a cloud first, or cloud only agency, and platforms as service. So this changes how we work. So how do we organize these functions underneath those strategic goals to make sure that we're keeping modernization, including automation, moving forward and not losing that momentum, which I'm terrified that we would start to do and start trying to bring those horses back in the barn, which I just think is a bad thing to do.
Yeah, that's great. Chris?
So it was real easy for us. So our caseworkers were big fans of not having to do all those tedious tasks anymore. So kind of our message has been, it's not about replacing people, it's about augmenting their capacity to focus on meaningful stuff, right? And so we want people to work on things that require people to do, right? And so the simple tedium should all be automated away, and that we can refocus the workforce on stuff that matters. That's been very well received. We've had no pushback, really. Not that they have a choice, but you know, it's gone exceptionally well. You know, there's really no culture pushback whatsoever.
That's great. If you hear the answers, right, you hear people, process. It's not the technology, right? The technology is not the issue usually. So Tara, back to you. How do you sustain this culture of automation? How do you keep it going? Oh, we're down to 1 minute. So let's see. I may just open this up. So, you know, what do you want to make sure the audience hears? Let's see if I can go. We have about a minute left, so I'm going to pass it fast.
I think
we may go a little over.
I think what is like encouraging, I mean, if I could share anything, is I said this yesterday when we talked with Daniel, but this is for me about moving this transactional experience of, you know, we're the Department of Human Services. You need food, you need housing, you need help. We have this, you want it, here you go, you know, move on with life. To now, let's look at your circumstance and your situation, and let's look at how we can help you improve your life long term. So what I can really appreciate about this technology, and it is an enabler, and we recognize that it enables us to have time to invest back in the people we serve. And so it's really encouraging for me. And when we talk about, like for me, spreading the culture of innovation, we don't have a wrong door. So any field staff can contact me or my chief and say, I have this idea for automation, what do you think? And we'll vet it. You know, I'll send the process engineers to go out and talk with them. But it's really exciting. And in this time, post-COVID, where there's so much opportunity, I just am encouraged by just the opportunity of automation. My team is excited. They're not developers or coders. They're people who are process engineers who are just interested in technology. But they build our robots, and they're excited about it. And when I go out, like we have Innovation Week in Oklahoma now, and it's just a week. It's, you know, multi-agency people that just say, I want to work on this project, and if it's something that touches our agency and theirs, then let's put the team together and let's improve the whole state and, you know, stop world hunger and cure everything. Let's just go ahead and do that. But it's really exciting because they're open to the possibility. Before, they were so buried in trying to get things done that they didn't have time to look at a better way of doing things. And now we have this opportunity, and as you mentioned before, in some cases the money, to say let's be impactful about how we approach our business. Let's reach as many people as possible. Let's serve as many as we can, and let's do it as quickly as we can. And that, I mean, it's just an exciting time right now, at least for me. So I'm grateful, and I'm grateful for our relationship with UiPath because it's a partnership, and it's working really well, and I'm excited about it.
That's great. Thank you. Anybody else want closing thoughts? I know we're out of time a little bit, so. Maja?
I can just say
Yeah.
real quick, can't emphasize, you know, less on the importance of RPA and all that. I think that's the reason we are all here attending this conference. There are a lot of takeaways that we have taken from this conference. For the ones who are planning or would like to set up a center of excellence, a lesson learned from our side, which I would like to share, is when you start off with your starter package, make sure you include Automation Hub and Insights. We have actually given that suggestion to UiPath as well, because that actually helps you see the value of what you're producing, your proof of concept or your phase 0 and whatever, to your executives, to your customers, and even to your team. And from a sustainability perspective, what we're doing on LA County is making sure that our approach covers both top-down and bottom-up. So, you have to make sure that your executives are intact, with the program. For that, we're trying to align our program with the organizational strategic goals so that at least, it's on their radar for a few years and you don't have to have issues with budgeting and all that stuff. And from a bottom-up, yes, citizen developer program, very, very important, just to make sure that everyone is on board, they understand publishing your stories, success stories, your bot stories. We were also thinking about breakfast and bots, as an event. Since we're opened up, we can meet in person, do something like that, just to get people excited and on board, because I know excitement sometimes lags when it comes to the public sector. So you have to build that and tell them what is important, the value of it, and how we are, and also aligning them with your counties or public sectors, whatever, or states, strategic goals, or the mission statements. That really helps. Thank you.
That's great. Charles, anything closing thoughts?
Yeah, just real briefly, I just, one of the biggest challenges that we have is maintaining this momentum. I think we're at a beautiful spot. I think you were referring to that. We've not been at this spot before, so being able to maintain this momentum is going to be critical. Keeping your business partners aligned and aware and using transparency as a tool to kind of achieve that has been very effective for us in North Carolina. There's still some struggles. Some people don't like it, some people do. But go with the low-hanging fruit and the ones that do, and start building that reputation for innovation and modernization. So. And thank you to EY as well. They've been a very valuable partner to us with the onboarding of UiPath and the capabilities that happen there as well.
Great. Let's hear it for EY. Chris, I know you got something.
Just do it. Automate all the things.
Do it. I love it. I love it. Thank you all. That was worth the extra time, right? Thank you all very much. Thank you.